Ms. Hannah Cox.
Thank you, Chairman Cardin, Ranking Member Senator Paul, and members of the committee. When I was born on December 30th of 1987, it was not yet legal for me as a woman to secure a business loan without a male co-signer in most states. That was merely 34 years ago. In 1963, when my mother was born, she could not yet obtain a credit card without a man. Women have faced unique challenges in this country, but they are challenges that we faced because our government first upheld a system that treated us as second-class citizens under the law for centuries and erected financial barriers we have had to tear down. Due to this, we had some catching up to do in the business world. But since receiving equal financial footing, the number of women-owned businesses increased by 31 times, rising from 402,000 businesses in 1972 to 12.3 million businesses, or 40% of all firms, by 2018. Today, women face these same struggles when it comes to entrepreneurship as men, struggles that, it must be pointed out, continue to be created by our government and its meddling in the market. True feminism means the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. So I'm here today to advocate for men in business every bit as much as I am to advocate for women, because what the government is currently doing hurts all of us. What entrepreneurs need to be successful is not a government handout. What we need is for the government to get out of our way. Entrepreneurs are being choked to death by the federal government's expansive regulatory apparatus. Between 1995 and 2017 alone, there were 88,899 rules and regulations implemented. Government agencies and unelected bureaucrats have run amok and are throttling our economy, while Congress fails to rein them in. As a result, business owners are forced to spend the bulk of their time jumping through legal hoops and wasting their profits on compliance. This is despite laws like the Small Business Regulatory Enforcement Fairness Act, which is supposed to ensure federal agencies help small businesses comply with statutes and regulations. This has largely not happened, and American entrepreneurs receive little relief when it comes to maneuvering this framework. The federal government also makes it increasingly difficult to succeed in business as it renders our currency void through reckless spending policies that drive the printing of new dollars and as it excessively taxes us at every turn. We are being pillaged by your policies. This includes the $4.9 trillion in new spending under the CARES Act, which led to rampant inflation. Prices have risen 7%, representing the largest increase in a 12-year period in the last 4 decades. For entrepreneurs, that's a tremendous hidden tax. It's money they no longer have to hire, expand, or save, and it also means consumers have less money to spend. You have stacked the deck against us. Not only that, but the federal government continues to pick winners and losers, giving our tax dollars to big business competitors and rigging the playing field against entrepreneurs. You do this through subsidies, selective tax breaks, regulations, and programs that prioritize some business owners over others. As one example, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, administered by the SBA, prioritized awarding funds to small businesses owned by women, veterans, or disadvantaged individuals, despite the fact that unconstitutional government lockdowns harmed all restaurants. This is only scratching the surface when it comes to the ways that the federal government serves as a barrier to entrepreneurship. The federal government purports to promote competition and entrepreneurship with its right hand, while its left is the primary source strangling the free market. The federal government is one of the last entities that should oversee entrepreneurship programs, and we've seen no numbers, no proof of efficacy in their work to counter that point. In fact, the research we have shows the opposite. The Office of Inspector General evaluated the SBA's handling of the CARES Act grant to train, counsel, and educate small businesses on federal resources. Under this grant, partners were given $18.6 million to create an informational and training hub, yet the office's report found that less than 1% of the 30 million small businesses this was intended for used the portal. And only 62 of approximately 14,000 resource partner counselors and mentors completed any of the training modules. That's a tremendous amount of our tax dollars being wasted. Tax dollars that entrepreneurs could do a lot more with if they were left in our pockets. The SBA recently announced it intends to elevate the Office of Women's Business Ownership, and in a statement on the reorganization, staff claimed this was indicative of the Biden-Harris administration prioritizing recovery for small firms and addressing long-standing inequities for women entrepreneurs. I find this offensive. You cannot claim that the federal government cares about female entrepreneurs after it worked to shut down our businesses, close schools, leaving women in the workforce scrambling for childcare, and mandated vaccines and COVID policies that have cost billions of dollars. The same is true as it always was. The government is the main roadblock to our success. The only role the federal government has to play in entrepreneurship is in removing the onerous burdens that is placed on the backs of every hardworking American. Women need the government to quit fantasizing itself our knight in shining armor, when in reality it is more akin to a wicked stepmother locking us away from opportunities. We need the government to remove itself from the market so that we can actually take up space and use the dollars currently being wasted for innovation and growth. Thank you.
Let me thank all 6 of our witnesses for their patience and their testimony. With Senator Paul's consent, I'm going to go to Senator Inhofe first, who has a conflict on time.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. It was very important for me to get over and ask a couple of questions. Ironically, I got here just in time to hear Ms. Cox. I'm not sure I need to do that now. However, I just want to make sure that to emphasize the problems that we're having in my state of Oklahoma, and other states are having the same types of problems. We talk about the inflation up to 7%. The highest has been in 40 years. The small businesses are having the effect of this. Is there anything that you can add? I had 2 questions I wanted to ask you. How would the radical spending plans only serve to hurt the small businesses and hinder entrepreneurship?
Thank you, Senator. It's important to remember that every dollar spent by the government is dollars that entrepreneurs don't get to keep in their pockets, that they could actually invest into their own companies, hire more people with, save. And so we continue to see this hurt small businesses across the country. They're demanding relief. I talk to small businesses and entrepreneurs across this country, and one of the main things they say they need are tax cuts, or at the very least, a simplification of the tax code so that they don't have to spend so much time jumping through hoops to meet compliance from the government. So I would suggest that the government look into those 2 items first and foremost. Secondarily, I suggest they quit spending money recklessly and give it back to the actual entrepreneurs who know on the ground how to invest the dollars better than the federal government could from so far away.
And I think that pretty much addresses the second question I would ask on how can this administration advocate for policies that actually help benefit the playing field and ensure all entrepreneurs have a fair shot.
Yes, I would love to see an actual review of all the regulations currently in play in various industries. I think it depends on which industry we're looking at, but if you examine any given one at a certain moment, you're bound to find a number of ways the federal government is preventing entrepreneurship and hurting small businesses. I'll use one bill that comes to mind within the agriculture industry right now. The PRIME Act is seeking to make it to where small farmers can merely just sell their meat without having to jump through the hoops the federal government has laid out for them to process their cows. That's a ridiculous burden on them that actually makes them lose money and have to kill their cows and waste product. That kind of thing can be found in virtually every industry in our economy where the federal government has come in and put in silly requirements that people have to jump through merely just to do their job. So I'd love to see the Biden administration actually go through and figure out what those regulations are and start to remove some of these things so that people can just get back to work.
That's particularly a great statement to make from my state of Oklahoma, because that's a problem I've heard from other people, and it is serious. So I think we understand that these are serious problems that small states, ag states, are having problems with, and that's what this is all about. We have these people here. We have your own problems, and I appreciate those comments very much. And that's primarily the message I wanted to have, Mr. Chairman, and both of you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Inhofe.